we might finally get to see MrSavage and Mongraal announce their official duos after really solid performances in today's Eval Cup. We also had Khanada and Clix going at it yet again, very reminiscent to trios when they were trying to take each other's loot, and things are getting a little bit heated. I also want to talk about, again, Peterbot and Poyo's absolute domination in the finals. A lot of people saying Pete and Poyo are looking even better than when they had the almost perfect chapter. There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Before we get into talking about the stacked finals, let's talk about the opens, because there were some insane performances and our first look at some potential new duos. So first off, on EU, we had Pablo and Marius winning it on 287 points. There is no concern that this team would be able to dominate opens lobbies. They are extremely good fighters. I'm excited to see what they can do in set lobbies, but right now they are one of the king duos of opens. We had Pix and Damus coming in second on 268, and then a player that I keep seeing pop up, and my chat's tried to help me pronounce this. It's Swedish. I apologize to get wrong. It's Calais and Della. This guy is the top of like every single element damage stat leaderboard, and I have never heard of this dude before. He has less than 1,000 earned. He is absolutely dominating. I really hope this guy is not cheating, and right now I don't think he is. He's streaming all of his gameplay. There is nothing to suggest he is, except for the fact that he's so good, and I just haven't heard of him, and I feel like a lot of people haven't either. So shout out to him. They're doing extremely well. Then we had Itsu and Repairs in 4th, and then we had Alvin and Tarps in 5th. It was top 50 to qualify, and because there is 100 new duos making it to Division 1 every single week, the qualifying amounts are going up and up every single week. This Eval Cup, to get top 50, you needed 202 points, which Chino and Feroxy got exactly on the money, just qualifying the finals, winning it on the tie break of the win. Now, one team I did want to talk about specifically in this, or two, is Focus and MrSavage. This could be MrSavage's potential duo, because MrSavage doesn't have a duo currently. Focus hasn't had a duo. He played this week's Div Cup with Vidils, did extremely well, made finals. Vidil didn't end up playing this Eval Cup with him. MrSavage taking the chance, and they looked really, really good. MrSavage is again still not streaming any of his gameplay. He's hyping up his announcement he has in a few days, but him and Focus were looking really solid. They came 38th overall. They had a rough start, but then towards the end really started to get into their groove after playing together, and they finished off with a 16 elim win and a 4 elim 4th in their last couple games. So for a lot of you guys who are hoping to see MrSavage land a solid teammate who he can do really well with, this is one of those options. Focus, again, coming off the back of qualifying to globals. He is a 50 ping player, but has said he will be 0 ping for next chapter, so he's only gonna get better than this. And like I said, I got to spend a lot of time with Focus in the practice room. This dude is hungry. If you want to see MrSavage do well, this is one of his best options right now. There is no statement between either of them about whether they're going to play together permanently, but right now the duo is looking good. I also want to talk about Mongraal and Marco, who also made the finals. Now, if you watch the opens, Mongraal and Marco came out of the gate absolutely popping off. They kicked off their first 3 games with a 3 elim second, 10 elim win, and a 3 elim 5th. But not just that, it's some of the most fun I've seen Mongraal have playing Fortnite. I think this is the most fun I've seen Mongraal have since playing with MrSavage. Marco is the perfect teammate for Mongraal. Again, no statement of whether they're actually doing together, but they're looking really, really good. Now, Marco is an ex-controller player. He's been a phenomenal solo player on controller for the last few years. Notably, he was the first player to ever get 5 wins out of 7 in the original Solo Victory Cup format. Being a solid solo player, but hasn't had crazy performances in team game modes. He's still sitting under 30,000 earned, but now switching to mouse and keyboard, he is already showing a lot of promise, and I feel like his vibe was really good for IGL Mongraal, because he would micromanage a little bit. He'd keep him, you know, on the leash a little bit, because Mongraal likes to go a bit crazy at endgame, but he did it in a way that felt fun, and I think the viewers kind of enjoyed that. It wasn't like he was just kind of micromanaging him in an annoying way. The vibes were up, they were yelling, having a good time, and they were absolutely popping off. So I'm super excited to see if we potentially do have some duos now for MrSavage and Mongraal, but we'll wait to see if someone makes it official. Moving on to NA, we had Ages and Yomzo bring it home in first on 333 points in 7 games, winning 2 of them, and their wins being a 35 and 34 elimination win. Ages and Yomzo living up to the hype right now. They can put on a show. They did extremely well. And then in second place, Kenty and Odin, an EU team. I don't know how you get 300 points in an Eval Cup opens from EU, but their match history was ridiculous. First, 4th, 1st, 3rd, 3rd. Just insane placement warriors. They did extremely well. Then we had Rapid and Threats in 3rd. Blake and Zen in 4th. Blake and Zen are doing really well in the opens lobbies. Struggling a bit in the finals. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but they're doing well. Cole and Madden, and then we had Clix and Higgs to round out the top 6. Now, NA's finals, this was one of the best finals lobbies we've had on NA, if not the best. A lot of the players were still at globals, or a lot of them were ill when they first got back. Now they've locked in, and this set lobby was pretty much kind of like a pre-show to the Div Cup finals we have later this week that is also very, very stacked. I'm going to kick off with the NA finals here because there's a few topics you probably heard about that I'm guessing you guys want me to weigh in on. We have Khanada and Clix teeing off against each other yet again. So last season, or I should say earlier this season, before globals, we had Khanada and Clix fighting over a little bit of loot. They were fighting over the kind of loot that was in between the OXR and kind of like Supernova and Swarmy Stash on that north part. Well, now we have different drop spots, but Khanada and Ark have decided they want to drop Swarmy Stash, which is the middle of the map. Clix and Higgs are going OXR. They're now fighting over this mountain here, and the main thing they're fighting over is the capture flag. It gives gold, it gives a bunch of loot. Both teams want it, and it's leading to, again, some pretty spicy engagements with Khanada and Clix both streaming during the finals and both contesting. So you can only imagine what the communities do. You can only imagine what the viewers do. Things got a little bit heated. This is what happened after game 1 when Ark managed to clutch up the off spawn, and Khanada gave his thoughts on Clix's decision.
He's gonna be the same HP as you. Nice. You have good math. You're literally, yo, these kids don't ever do that shit, Clix. Don't ever try that shit. My duo on 50. Just wrap it up. Wrap it up. Look at this. Bro. Look at their loot. Look at their loot. What do they want? What do they want? Please explain that to me. Explain it. Please. What do they want, bro? They have all of this. Everything here. What do they want? A flag?
Now, don't get me wrong. As a viewer, I'm totally fine to keep watching this off-spawn fight. It's fun to see Clix and Khanada go at it. I mean, the comms always get a little bit toxic. That's just part of Fortnite. But for me, in this scenario, trying to be as unbiased as possible, I'm not really sure this fight is worth it. Now, Khanada sums it up pretty well there. I think Khanada needs this loot. He has like 7 chests at his POI. It's not even really a POI. So kind of needs this loot. Clix and Higgs are being a little bit greedy. But in saying that, Clix has given his thoughts quite recently in a few different scenarios. Namely, when Queasy said he doesn't know why Clix is not just playing for top 5s and top 3s when he can get them so easily, instead of trying to go for a win, saying he's not a winning player. And Clix responded saying, well, with my career where I'm at, a win's all I care about. I'm going for wins because that is all I need left. I need my FNCS title. I need my major win. That is what's missing from my career, and that's my priority. And you know, it's trying to claim loot like this, being a bit greedy and making these kind of plays that could potentially lead to a win. Now, I know what you're going to say as well. We're not even got an FNCS. There's no FNCS this season. There's not even going to be an FNCS this chapter, so there's not going to be an FNCS on this map. And I agree. For Clix and Higgs' performance for the rest of the season in the Cash Cups, the Eval Cups, I believe personally it is worth Clix to probably just give up this loot, play OXR. The loot is more than good enough for them to have some phenomenal performances from. But again, I want to give both sides of this one. I'm guessing that's why Clix wants to fight over it. It could also be good for them to practice their off-spawn fighting, but this is a very messy spawn fight. It's not even about whether one of them can just quick wipe and win it, because now both teams are trying to lurk into the other's POI, steal their loot. Clix had teams dropping on OXR and taking his loot while he fought for the mountain flag. Then we had them fighting each other and then getting 3rd and 4th partied, as you saw in that clip after Ark goes down. It's a very, very messy off spawn where realistically neither of them are going to win. So again, I feel like Khanada's team is probably going to keep going for the loot because their POI just basically doesn't work without it. Maybe Clix and Higgs end up giving it up and just play with the loot they have at OXR, or they're happy to throw their games and try and Alfred up, and maybe Khanada switches drops entirely. Khanada could just end up dropping somewhere else and giving up Swarmy altogether. So it's an interesting fight to watch as it plays out. This is our first time we got to see it, but it's just interesting that now Khanada and Clix are still going at it on a very similar part of the map and a very similar scenario. Both of them want the extra bit of loot. The other team isn't willing to give it up, and it gets messy. Now, no surprise, neither of these teams were actually able to get a win in the finals because of this off-spawn situation, especially with the performance that none other than Peterbot and Poyo were putting up. Pete and Poyo's match history tells the story. They kicked off with a 7 elim 6th, didn't come out and get a win, but then they got a 12 elim win, 9 elim win, and a 12 elim 2nd. They dropped 40 eliminations in 4 games and had an average placement of 2.5. It is fair to say Pete and Poyo are very much back, and right now they're getting the loot to do it. Now, I got to give a shout out for my boy Poyo here as well. I said I was going to start counting their kills and seeing who was coming out overall. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Peterbot's pulling ahead, but I took this screenshot of their loot today. I mean, tell me Poyo's not just the greatest teammate. Come on. I mean, he's got the splashes at least, I guess. He's got more splashes, but like, to be fair, there was a few games where Pete was sharing the loot a little bit with Poyo. It felt like at the start of the tournament, Pete was giving Poyo a little bit more of the loot, but as the tournament progressed, there was a few times there where Pete definitely took the majority of the loot. I did see one endgame where Pete actually took the purple revolver and then gave Poyo the mythic revolver because Pete already had the exotic assault rifle, but the sharing's getting a bit better. But Pete and Poyo, doesn't matter who gets the loot, doesn't matter what happens, they are looking absolutely phenomenal now, and it felt like Grimgate. Every single time they got to endgame, Peterbot would take high ground with Poyo, Pete would drop down, start fragging out, Poyo would sit up above and play the heal off. It just genuinely felt like we went back in time, and the loot was ridiculous. Pete and Poyo, on top of getting the hive every single game, getting the queen, getting the mythic, they also got, I think 5 bunkers in 4 games. Yes, you heard that right. One game they managed to get both bunkers. So they got a bunker every single game, and one game, potentially even 2, I could have missed it, they got 2 bunkers. So they were running around stacked out of their mind, but they executed. Again, you give a lot of teams that loot, and they're not going to pull off this much of a performance. I'm not going to try and say it's just the loot, but NA as a region is going back to giving Pete and Poyo whatever loot they want at this point. Now, AIDS Neomzo was one of the teams that managed to take a win off Pete and Poyo. They managed to clutch it up in the last game and actually beat Pete and Poyo in the final 2v2 to clutch it up. They got a 10 elimination win. Then we had Reed and Curve, who actually came out and got the first game win with an 8 elim win, repping it for the double controller crew. Our next most consistent team, and I don't normally talk about teams who don't get a win in eval finals, was Cooper and Sphinx. Now I have to talk about them because you probably clued in. That wasn't a duo a few days ago, and yes, this is a brand new duo. Cooper ended up not playing with Curly. I talked about this. Curly has school commitments that are kind of keeping him back, where Cooper wanted to play with someone who could grind more, left him without a duo. Sphinx and Muzz now didn't make the Div 1 finals this week, which is a big underperformance. It looks like it was enough of an underperformance for Sphinx to now drop Muzz and start playing with Cooper. Muzz ended up playing the Eval Cup with Mero, ended up making the finals. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get a win. They did get a 6 elim second though, showing some promise, but I don't think I don't think Muzz and Mero will be an official duo. I think that was just a last minute pickup, running back the FNCS winning trio, but Cooper and Sphinx are officially now duoing together, and yeah, not really sure what this means for Muzz. There aren't a lot of options right now, but some could pop up over the next few weeks if teams start snaking each other. Moving on over to the EU finals, we had Chino and Phrodoxy, after just qualifying to the finals, proving that they can pull it off in set lobbies as a duo, getting an 8 elimination win and a 7 elim 4th. Then we had Chap and Flixie pulling off a double-digit 10 elim win. They were looking really solid throughout the tournament. They were playing quite aggressive around MrSavage though. MrSavage and Focus ended up getting the hive uncontested. I was really hoping that would lead to some crazy success from Savage and Focus. Talked obviously earlier in the video about them becoming an official duo potentially, but the finals didn't go as well. They got a 6 elim 4th as their best game, which with uncontested hive, I was hoping for more. Again, they've never played a set lobby finals together. I don't think either of them even has any kind of experience at the hive. With Chap and Flixie playing very aggressive out of the resistance base, it could have potentially caused some upsets for them, which did hinder their performance. Then we had Pix and Damus. Now, this is a really interesting one. We had Dam and Blaha coming first and second in the first 2 games, which is when Pix and Damus did so poorly. And then when Dam and Blaha struggled in the last 2 games, that's when Pix and Damus shot up and got a 3rd and a 1st, which is very interesting for the X trio. Now that we have Pix and Damus duoing together, Dam had to look for his own partner, picked up Blaha, and right now it is making so much sense that Dam and Damus split. I was saying in my videos, I was confused why the 2 fraggers decided to leave behind their IGL and see if they could do well together. They don't have a lot of experience competing. I've talked about this trio all year. They started popping off together this year, and I didn't know whether they'd have the experience to be able to bring it home, and it looks like one of them needed picks, but Dam has found a big replacement in Blaha. They are looking really, really solid. And then we had Queasy and Veno, our most consistent team that didn't get a win. They got 2 6th places, but again, shout out to Queasy and Veno. They were contested in all 4 games at Canyon. I believe 2 of the games actually being double contested, 3 teams landing there, and they still managed to make it off spawn every single game. Queasy and Veno are marking their authority on Canyon, and I don't think they're going to get contested a lot if they keep looking this scary. They did not crack at all off spawn. All the practice Veno did in preparation for globals against Coyote is definitely paying off, and Queasy is fitting in there really, really well. The NA final stats really do tell the story. We had Pete getting top in all 3 categories, damage ratio 3.14, which is just absolutely absurd in a finals. Iomzo getting a very respectable second on 2.31, the only 2 players getting over 2 damage ratio. Damage to players, Peterbot getting 7,734, clearing Ages by over 3,300 points. Poyo also again getting a respectable top 3 on 4,400. Then we had eliminations, Pete well and truly in the lead, almost double second place. Peterbot getting 27 eliminations, while again Rapid a very respectable 14th, tied with Cooper and Josh. So again, the kind of stats you're expecting after a very dominant performance from Peterbot in the finals.